Welcome to the Plastic Plesiosaur podcast.
We are your hosts, Trey the Explainer.
And me, Miles Greb.
A podcast about the natural world.
Things that people claim are part of the natural world.
And things that used to be.
We did it, Trey. We survived to another episode.
We did. Oh my gosh, sorry.
Well, never mind. There goes Trey.
My mouth was very dry for a second there. Just as soon as you started talking to me, I was like, wow.
I just made myself a refreshing cup of tea because I got a brand new Disney Robin Hood mug.
Whoa, nice.
Yeah,
of the new movie? Or
no, new movie. No, of the 70s Disney Robin
the
Hood.
original?
Something that's worth liking, you know? So how you been?
Great.
What are you working on? Your last video was the pyramid one, right?
Yeah, the pyramid one had performed pretty well. Was that out last time we talked? I think so.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
I don't really know how time works exactly.
Time, especially on my channel, works very it's very long between videos.
It's okay.
This one is the ancient humor, the joke video.
Oh yeah.
That I learned Sumerian for.
That's a mighty task.
Orgire eshkamshe in Kuma.
No cursing on the podcast, Trey.
That's a joke right there. That's a very good, funny joke, right? I
believe you. Speaking of ancient jokes and pyramids, I heard about this hat that you're thinking about getting.
Yeah. I'm in the process of trying to talk to I'm literally on Etsy right now. Maybe I should just get off Etsy and wait until after we're done recording to get like a custom embroidered hat. Of which I found there was a paper that I found that had the Egyptian hieroglyphics for saying nice ass, which is great.
Which is very important. The first thing you need to learn.
It's how do you say it? Okay, the translation that the guy gave is how beautiful are thy buttocks, which is kind of great. And I want that on a hat just in the hieroglyphics, so it's a joke that only I get. It's only for me.
You could wear it in the video.
I could. Yeah. I could, yeah. Nobody would know.
Just hide your face, you know.
Yeah, so that's good. That's pretty fun.
Or you could.
How about you? How have you been doing?
You could have it on backwards and just like have the back of you in the photo. Take it in the
That's great. That's great. It works.
I've been doing really good. So my comic series Puck the Artist, the one that's about like a world where artists can draw things into existence, right? And there's different like cultures of art and styles, but color has been lost. It was stolen a long time ago, and like everybody forgets that, right? So you have this kind of juxtaposition of an art-based world, but it's all in black and white. That book has its official release this month. It'll be out May 31st at your local comic book shop. So you can call and pre-order that if you want to. I hear that it's pretty good and recommend people do that. But yeah, that's coming out this month, and it'll be my first like nationally published book. So I'm pretty excited for that.
That's awesome. Congrats, man.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. And I also ate coconut ice cream out of a coconut at a Vietnamese restaurant yesterday, and that was really good. Very delicious.
Nice.
So having a good time.
I can't complain either. I'm having a good time too. Yeah.
I also went to the lake and I saw 10 turtles.
10 turtles? That's a lot of turtles.
It's an extensive amount of turtles. They were all on a log hanging out in the sun. And then I watched a heron dive into a bush and grab a gardener stake. And then he beat the gardener stake relentlessly on the pavement and then ate it.
Oh my God.
So, it's a little dinosaur on a reptile action. So
that's like the Mesozoic right there, just happening right in front of you.
Yep. So Trey, the best TV series of all time, of course, is Star Trek, right?
I've never see. Here's the thing:
that's what I'm going to claim.
We can say that. Agree to do. Yeah. Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm saying it. I'm not interested in the discourse. Just going to claim it and move on. It's a very inspirational show. Of course, to science fiction and engineering and culture abroad. There's 4 kind of proper Star Trek shows. Star Trek Next Generation, Voyager, DS9, and then I guess there's Enterprise. You have never watched any of these fantastic shows, though.
I have not seen a single episode. I like all I knew of Star Trek is Mike and Rich Evans
Yeah, yeah,
from Red Letter Media. It's their reviews. I watch their reviews of stuff, even though I know nothing about Star Trek.
that's fine.
And like so, I need some explanation. Like you sent me the episode, and yeah.
Yeah, so I sent Trey an episode because I'm watching through Voyager with my fiance, and I was like, you know what? I got to this episode called Distant Origins, um, and I was like, I think Trey would actually like this one. It's a really fun one. I kind of want to talk about it on the podcast actually. And Trey's like, oh, that sounds interesting. I want to watch and check it out too. So I hooked him up with the episode through illicit means. And it's the first actual episode of Star Trek Trey's ever watched, which is definitely an odd introduction into the series.
Yeah, I posted an image from a screen cap from the episode on Twitter, and people were like, he's starting, like I said, this is my first Star Trek episode, and he's starting with Voyager. They're like, that's a mistake. It's like, oh, okay.
It's okay. It's okay. So the original series, right, in the 60s with Kirk and Spock, that follows the Enterprise on its 3-year voyage, and basically the point is, the Federation is this humanist, secular, organization that is part of Earth. It doesn't run Earth. Starfleet is a part of the Federation. It's kind of like their military and science kind of foundation all together, right? And so Kirk goes out in space with this crew. They're explorers. They're supposed to go see what they can find, make first contact with other aliens, and it kind of introduces the concept of the show, right? And it was the first secular humanist show on television, and it's very influential in a lot of ways. Surprisingly, that show only actually has 3 seasons.
The original?
The original, even though it's so
really
famous. Yeah.
How many episodes per season?
Second season has the most. Third is a half season.
Oh.
But there's not that many. There's only 50 episodes.
Did they get canceled or something? Or?
They got canceled season 3. Yeah.
Really? Dang.
Yeah.
And what is that in relation to Voyager and Picard, the bald fellow, on timelines wise?
Okay, so that's 23rd century, right?
Okay.
And then we're talking about, I don't know these numbers 100% exactly, so I could Google them, but I'm not going to. But it's 60 years, something after that is Next Generation, right? So you're talking in the future. Past that is the Next Generation, and that show came out in the late 80s. It was the 80s 90s show, and that's Picard. The Next Generation kind of fully got to realize a lot of the things that the original show wanted to do. And it is, more. Picard is a little different than Kirk. Kirk isn't quite as aggressive as people make him seem in pop culture. Kirk's actually a pretty good leader, but he is a bit more swashbuckling, where Picard's more of a diplomat. He's a French guy, he plays the flute, likes wine. TNG is also a great show. A lot of people recommend starting with TNG. After that, you have Deep Space Nine, which runs concurrently towards the end of TNG. That is a more political and pseudo-religious show about a space station and a group of very religious people who get occupied by a Nazi-like alien race, and they want to join the Federation, but there's a wormhole there, so it's a resource battle. And then one of the captains, in my estimation, mistakenly becomes pseudo-religious himself, and it's a whole thing. And there's changelings. It's a good show.
Okay.
That's good. I like
Deep Space Nine?
Yeah. Space. Some fans will tell you Deep Space Nine is the best show. I think occasionally it bites off more than chew and becomes kind of pseudo-sophisticated, but it is still a very good show. Don't let me misunderstand.
I'm looking up Deep Space Nine, because all I know of Star Trek is memes. So I need to know okay, do I recognize these memes?
So the first 2 shows are they're explorers, right? The third show is kind of more political, and they're stuck on a space station, right? And they end up in a war. The fourth show, Voyager, is supposed to be an explorer ship, but what happens is they meet an alien that's a powerful god type alien, and he sends them way out into space, and they have to destroy the way that they got sent there. They can't get sent home. They have to destroy it to protect these other aliens. So they make the decision to do that, but it strands them in the Delta Quadrant, right? So the Earth and everything's in the Alpha Quadrant, so they're way, way far from home. They're it's going to take them 60, 80 years to get home, something crazy like that, right? So it's a real big problem.
Future technology.
Yeah, they have future tech, but still going at warp 9, it's just going to take them 60 years to get home.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so that this is like a show about them being lost in the frontier, basically, and they're meeting all these alien species that Starfleet hasn't encountered before, except for the Borg, which their native home is the Delta
Okay, I'm looking at a map.
Quadrant.
So humans are from the
Alpha
Alpha
Quadrant.
Quadrant.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're humans evolved on a planet called Earth.
I remember that. I know
Yeah, you
that.
remember that? Okay, that's good.
Earth isn't even on this map. What is this? And then so Delta Quadrant is across the galactic core, and this might not even be like a legit map. This might be just
Yeah,
somebody
I
like
don't know what you're looking at, and
making
there's
up.
new Trek stuff which I don't really care about.
Okay, here we go, and it's in Borg. Okay, yeah. I see it. They're in Borg space,
Yeah,
and okay, that yeah, because you said you wanted to give me extra context for this episode, and then you told me, and I started watching the episode. I didn't let you give me a context, and then
hmm
and then you gave me extra context, and the fact that this episode is happening in the Delta Quadrant makes much more sense, and actually, I think yeah, it's interesting.
yeah. So this episode called "Distant Origins" um, is it actually has an interesting reception. Some people really don't like it, and some people really like it.
Really,
I think it's one of the better episodes of Star Trek Voyager.
I love this episode. I
Yeah,
can't compare it to anything, but I was like,
yeah.
from
Right now,
five
it's your
minutes in,
favorite
I was
episode.
in.
So
5 minutes in, I was already into the episode. I was like, this is awesome. This is great.
yeah, this is season 3, episode 23 of Star Trek Voyager, and it's written by a lot of the normal crew who writes a lot of the Star Trek episodes. It starts off not very. It starts off very interestingly. We don't really see the Starfleet crew at the beginning, right?
Right. That surprised me that it's almost entirely on the Voth.
Yeah, the Voth.
Yeah, it's like Voth perspective. Like you don't even really see much of the Star Trek perspective.
Yeah, and this episode, I wanted to talk about it on the show, not just because I like Star Trek, but this episode basically has a dinosauroid hypothesis,
Mhm.
and it plays out in this Galileo versus the Catholic Church type setting. Because we have Gigan, who is our Voth. He's a reptilian, humanoid looking creature, and he has been looking for proof of his distant origin theory.
Mm. I like how it had a name. That's great.
Yeah,
Like this
it
whole
works,
episode
right?
like has like archaeology and paleontology like
Doctrine, his people, that they evolved in this part of space they like own it, they're indigenous to it, it's like tied to them. He believes that they actually evolved on a far distant planet, and you see him in his workshop, and he has like almost like a Darwin type workshop with his finches, but he has like a human skull.
mm. I I wanted to ask you about the because like the episode opens with him and his assistant in a cave, like excavating, and
Yeah,
there's a human skeleton. Is that a skeleton of somebody that was part of the crew in like a previous season or something?
and the two parts episode Basics Part 2 of Voyager, you can see a slide where Neelix is at this cave, and you can see the same cave at the start of the Distant Origins episodes. Of course, these are the Valquez caves, but in real life, but in Voyager, they are the same place, and they find Ensign Hogan's body, and Ensign Hogan is the one who was found and sadly dead. So yeah, that is the character that was discovered, and he does have a card, as you can see right here. But regardless, he has a human skull, and he's like looking at the shape of these things and seeing the shape of them, and he's starting to make this connection that like this is like you know compelling evidence to his hypothesis, which is really
Uh,
cool because it's a lot of how we developed our understanding of evolution ourselves. So
Yeah. I liked it. I like that his discussion because, like, first of all, the skeleton when it's on the table, it's like really incomplete. Like half of it's missing, which I loved. That's a great detail as like an archaeology person. I'm like, that's great. That's great because it's like you very rarely get like a full intact skeleton like
yeah,
that.
we don't
Like
have like full Denisovan skeletons and stuff, right? You just
right. And granted, the skeleton they said it was just a year old. It was like a year old person. Like the person had been dead for a year. So I was surprised that that little survived because it looked like it was on a desert planet, but maybe I don't know what else was on this planet. I guess it's not like there's probably animals on that planet. I guess we don't know which planet it is. But
I think
anyways,
I'm thinking now that he might have got it. There's an episode they have to land on a planet because the other aliens are after him, and somebody like gets eaten by a big worm monster thing. I wonder if it's that guy.
Oh my god,
I
that'd be great.
I'm not
That's a
sure if it
great
is.
little detail.
He
That
was
like
wearing the same
consequences of
color
the previous
uniform.
adventures.
Yeah, I wonder if it is. I'll have to double check that. I don't know for a
Okay.
fact. But,
Nice. And I also loved his discussion, like of like, yes, the cranial capacity is X cc's big or something like that. And we don't know, but they lack a certain lobe. I like that. I like that because that's like very paleontology too, where you try to like estimate the like intelligence of a species based on like the skull size. But they kind of mess up because like it's centric to like their knowledge of stuff. So like we do like we talked about this with the T-Rex paper that said T-Rex was like had
yes, yes.
a really big brain. Where a lot of it is like centric to how I don't know modern view a modern species, but like when you only have the bones, it's very difficult to.
Yeah, and they try to construct it, and they like don't get it right. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that little picture. They kind of reconstruction of what a human looks like, and like an alien they're talking to is like, yeah, no, that's not right.
Yeah. That alien is an alien we do meet. They do. The Voyager had been on that space station in a previous episode, so they're like
Oh, that's
following the
awesome.
trail.
See, I
Yeah.
love these little details. This is great as a person that
But it's cool.
is
So they have
completely
the
blind.
bias of being like a reptilian kind of species, right? So they like
Mm.
have that bias of how to reconstruct the humans.
They're like
And
mammals, ectotherms do not have intelligence.
yeah,
Which I think is funny because people have said the inverse about reptiles.
yeah.
Reptiles, like we consider reptiles pretty stupid, and that it's unlikely for them to evolve intelligence. Then again, things have changed where dinosaurs are now considered more warm-blooded.
So in the episode, he goes to his theory, and it ends up being that the ministers and the kind of people in power are not too fond of this, right?
Hmm.
Um,
The lady.
they, yeah, the minister Ula or whatever her name is, she is basically like go straight to jail.
Just shut up.
Yeah,
This is outrageous. Where are the armed men who come in to take the protesters away? Where are they? This kind of behavior is never tolerated in Boracua. You shout like that, they put you in jail right away. No trial, no nothing. Journalists, we have a special jail for journalists. You're stealing, right to jail. You're playing music too loud, right to jail, right away. You're driving too fast, jail. Slow, jail. You're charging too high prices for sweaters, glasses, you right to jail. You undercook fish, believe it or not, jail. You overcook chicken, also jail. Undercook, overcook. You make an appointment with the dentist and you don't show up, believe it or not, jail, right away. We have the best patients in the world because of jail.
she believes that it's important to their doctrine that their species is kind of like entitled to its space and position, and the fact that they would have evolved in the same planet of mammals or evolved like in a basically the fact that they're immigrants to the area like diminishes their space and purpose in the universe, right?
She was
Which
almost like insulted about the like that they were fleeing from Earth, like they fled Earth and stuff, that they were cowards, I guess was her thing.
yeah, because Gigan makes the claim that basically this species would have evolved on Earth and then left Earth and then eventually landed in the Delta Quadrant, right? And
Mm.
she's just like, oh, we're not refugees, we're not immigrants. She's like
Do
really offended by that.
do we know so like do they live on the ships or do they have like a home world, like a planet that they've colonized?
I don't believe the Voth have a colonized planet. I Let me look here. This is
It
the
does
only
it does
episode
sound
with
like
the
it's
Voth
just
in it, by the way. They're not in any other episodes.
oh, it's one-off episode, that's all we know
Yeah,
about him. Dang, dang.
we do know that their ship is one of the biggest ships in all of Star Trek.
Mm.
So they are
Yeah, because you see the
pretty.
interior in the Voyagers inside, and it's like it can fit inside with like a lot of space in the cavern.
Yeah, so that's pretty dang massive. Um,
Uh, this is a tangent, but like when they so like another like the big reason why they think they're related is they test the DNA of the skeleton,
mhm.
and they share Miles. They share a shocking 47 genetic markers.
Yeah, it's kind of low, huh?
I think I think this is just a product of the time, maybe like
Yeah, they just didn't know.
First of all, what do you mean by genetic markers? Do you mean like a SNP or do you mean like genes specifically? It would be a lot. The thing in real life, it'd be so obvious that they're related, like in evolutionarily. It would be like I don't know, like people have done the percentages like 90% or something
It'd be
like
over
that.
90% match, right?
Yeah, it would be blaringly obvious, especially in a world where they encounter aliens, right? There's all these
So
aliens.
there's this weird thing in Star Trek where most of the humanoids have a humanoid form because they have some genetic ancestry with each other.
Okay.
So
Well,
there's
that's
this
weird.
there's this
So that's like
species.
an excuse for them to be all humans instead,
I mean, it
because they
is,
were
but
cheap.
there's a TNG episode where they meet this culture that had guided evolution only very slightly on different planets to help them evolve to like the bipedal, opposable thumb humanoid structure. So they
Mm.
have a distant genetic similarity, like Vulcans, Klingons, humans, and everything. So
That would complicate things in the evolution model, like as a biologist
it
and
would
thinking.
definitely complicate things. That
Dr.
episode's obviously
Geegan might have to
controversial.
explain. Yeah, Dr. Geegan might have some problems with it.
You
So
got some explaining to do, Dr. Keegan.
that's an interesting idea, I guess. So like a race guided, like with genetics, like what did they do? Did they tamper with DNA or?
That's a whole other bag of worms.
Okay, yeah. I can't get into it. I don't know that much about the lore.
But yeah, basically, like what's interesting too is like you hear the professor and he's really hopeful in the beginning of the episode. It's like people are going to respond to the evidence.
Yeah.
They might not like my theory, but I mean, like we have like really powerful, compelling evidence. We literally have like our sister kind of species from the same planet here. We can test, we can talk to them, we can learn about it. Like people are going to respond to the evidence. But the thing is, and he like his first blush and people are upset with him, it's like, oh, they're ignorant.
Mm.
But I was like, man, you're pretty ignorant, thinking that like evidence would convince religious people.
Right.
It
No,
doesn't really
yeah.
work that way.
Yeah, I like the framing of the episode because like it's like an allegory for
Mm-hmm.
like creationism versus evolution. But also you're right that there's like I saw somebody call it like Galileo
Yeah,
versus like the Catholic Church.
it definitely has like the more like mythological version of the Galileo Catholic Church debate. But also you got to remember this is like Bush. This
Yeah,
is
this
like
is
Bush era
2000s, right?
America. Yeah, so like like we were having big creationism in school. Intelligent design was invented around this time to be the new argument, right? So that's
Yeah,
like the
when was the
culture that this
trial?
episode would be coming out in. So
The trial was 2005, like Killer Kidsman Miller versus Dover, which was like the
yeah. And so
intelligent
this is
design.
1997. So this is like building up in the culture at that point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, you can definitely see it. The dogma and like science truth versus dogma and religion and stuff. Um and I think it's done like very, very well. Like it's not too like preachy, you know?
yeah, and eventually they like the people are totally against the evidence. They're totally against hearing him out, and they basically tell him to renounce it all, or he's
Yeah.
going to go to prison, and everyone in Voyager is going to go to like a slave labor camp.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love the professor because he was like, no, you can imprison me, and it doesn't change the truth. Like he really stands by it. But as soon as like the Voyager crew gets in trouble for it, he sticks his neck out for his friends.
Yeah, but Chakotay gives that really good speech though. Chakotay's the second officer; he's the second in command of Voyager.
Mm.
And interestingly, they chose him because he's like the one kind of spiritual person on the ship.
Oh, see, like that's
Uh,
context I didn't have.
yeah, Chakotay, he is, they call him a Native American, but his people are from South America, right?
Mm.
Like his ancestors, and he still has a lot of that like culture and tradition that he believes in. So he's like the one person on the ship that has a bit of a spiritual side, and so it's interesting having him kind of be the defender of the scientist against the religious doctrine.
Mm.
I think they kind of did that to show that there is a version of compatibilism. Like Chakotay can be spiritual, but he's not going to allow dogma to like just destroy and block and limit science.
Right, because he uses the comparison like in their culture, there was like a scientist who like they forbid some type of warp technology or something like that,
Hmm.
right? And then like somebody broke the taboo, and then it helped revolutionize their space travel. The dogma held them back, and
Hmm.
and people have said that with Christianity, and in like the Middle Ages like might have suppressed science and knowledge, and maybe we would, if people didn't question dogma and stuff, like we'd be stuck in those times.
Christianity is suppressing people right now, man.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I really, really liked it. I wrote down that I said depressing downer ending,
Yeah.
but because he gives the guy, what's his name?
Gigan.
Oh no, the human.
Oh, Chakotay.
Chakotay gives this really rousing, good speech, and you think like at least I was like, oh, it's like the alien, the dinosaur lady. Is she gonna be swayed? And then for a moment it looked like she was by his words, and then no, she was like, no, you're gonna go to prison, and you need to renounce everything and like say that I was wrong and recant everything. And I was like, oh crap, and then she forces the professor to, and he can't be a paleontologist anymore. He's like a metallurgy guy or something
Yeah,
now.
like, it looks like you're no longer interested in paleontology. You're interested in metal now. And it's like,
I
yeah,
was like,
okay.
man. And he's like, yeah, like I was never good at chemistry. Like I'm gonna have a very undistinguished career and like die
Yeah.
and die like a quiet life. And I'm like, dang, that sucks. But then they end on and I think that's like more fitting. Like real world people aren't changed by like good speeches or
Yeah.
emotion,
It
like
is a
very
very good classic Star Trek speech.
right. And in real life, like I wish people would be swayed by evidence and stuff. You hope that, but there's people that are just religious and just won't change
Well,
regardless. Like they're
you can, like I said, you can see that she may personally had been swayed, but it doesn't
mm,
matter because
right,
either her political necessity or her religious, like there's a painful cognitive dissonance to like break your religious beliefs.
right.
Like
Because there's a
it
whole society that that
yeah.
holds all that stuff up, so it's tough.
So eventually that wins out.
Yeah. But the episode ends on like a glimmer of hope because he gives them the little Earth, and
Yep.
they're like, maybe someday people will accept it. And I'm like, oh, and I like that. I like that ending. That like, okay, maybe like because that's what happens really with controversial ideas. That kind of because it's a very gradual shift, and like
Yeah, you just
at a
got to
certain
keep the ball
point,
rolling, keep the
you have
evidence
to
going.
just wait till people die out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they eat grass. It's a very weird choice. So like they say that those are the most intelligent, and the Voth are descended from them.
I,
Um,
I think that is a creative choice to not be like a raptor.
Yeah, it is a
You know?
creative choice, and it makes the design, like, the costume look cooler because like, the Voth have, like, the horn on their head, and they're very
Yeah.
scaly. It doesn't make much sense because Hadrosaurs, I don't think they were intelligent.
Yeah.
I have to
Because
look
they're
at
grazers, right? Most grazers aren't that intelligent because you don't see
yeah,
them.
they're like cows. They're like the
Yeah.
cows of the Cretaceous period, or Cretaceous? Let me make sure I'm getting this right. Somebody's gonna be on my ass if I name the wrong period. Hadrosaurs are Cretaceous, right?
I'm not
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
say
late
in case
Cretaceous.
I'm wrong. I think
But
it's right, but
Parasaurolophus is Cretaceous. Yeah, like and they're like cows. They're like cows. They're grazers, and I have to look at their cranial capacity. I don't think they're especially intelligent. From what I've heard, and they don't really have a reason to be intelligent. Uh, like yeah, like if you're gonna say intelligent dinosaur, like Dinosauroid, um, like most of the time it's gonna be a theropod because theropods are
yeah.
probably the more intelligent
So
of
you
the
have
dinosaur
like the
branch.
original Dinosauroid, right? Like the green, scary nightmare fuel one.
Yes, from like the
Then
70s, yeah.
yeah, then you have like one like Koza Man worked on and stuff, right? Where they're like, got like
Or
little they got like little like spears tucked behind their wings and stuff,
mhm,
right?
they're more
Um,
bird-like.
yeah, so I think this is cool because it's like a different kind of thing, you
Yeah,
know.
it's definitely
Um,
creative, and I appreciate their creativity.
and I don't think it's not like infinitely outlandish because I mean like there's like 65 million years of
Right.
time for
There's
things to
so much
evolve.
time for
Like
evolution.
I mean we evolved within the last 250,000 years to this, right? I mean,
Mm.
like obviously there's a time before that where there's hominids, but like geez, just think of 4 or 5 million years what it could do to a species. It could do quite
Well,
a bit.
even if you think of what our ancestors looked like 65 or 66 million years ago, we were little rat-like things.
Yeah,
and then versus now where we look completely different size and
we look
shape and
sexy, smart, beautiful creatures, really.
like everything's changed around, like where its orientation is. Like I'm surprised the Voth don't look more different. Because they should look just super weird.
Well, that's
Um,
because we got to put humans in suits, buddy.
this is true. This is true. This is true. The idea though, the idea is very cool. Like because CM Kozman, he's like a friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the
Um,
show.
he loves writing about this kind of stuff. Because he wrote Altomaros, which Altomaros has a segment in it, like towards the beginning, where humans are expanding outward, kind of like in Star Trek, I assume,
Mm-hmm.
where like they're expanding outwards, researching new planets and stuff, and encountering new species. And they go to one planet, and the planet is filled with like really alien aliens, like like with like iron
Yeah.
bones and stuff like that, like 3 limbs and like alien, just evolved completely independently. And then they find the fossil of a Therizinosaurus, like a dinosaur, just on this alien planet for some reason.
Now
It's like, how did they get there?
that would mess up paleontology.
That would in the book, yeah, and in his book, like it's like an awakening of like humans, It's like, how did that get there? Like, does God actually exist? Did aliens visit Earth? And like, what transported this dinosaur here? Were there intelligent dinosaurs? In the end,
It was the Voth, man.
In the end, it turns out to be the Q, which I know is a Star Trek thing, right?
Yes, the Q.
The Q, his Q are like these weird bug aliens that they are nomadic and they travel from each wing of the galaxy, like on each like I don't know billion years or something crazy like that. And they visited Earth and then picked up a dinosaur and then brought it to another planet just to like I don't think it's ever really explained why they do this stuff. Just I think they're just to fuck with everything. But the Q transported it, so it's like aliens once visited Earth. I just love the idea, but the thing is I've had discussions with this about to paleontologists, like could there have been civilizations in our past, like of other species, and like it's possible. There's just no evidence for it.
Yeah, there's no good reason to believe it, but I don't think there's that good a reason to say no.
Right.
Like it's
I
unlikely, but it doesn't seem impossible.
I'd say it depends on the level of technology.
Yeah, because they didn't have metallurgy. Because we
Yeah,
find
if
that.
there's like and that would like there's certain things that would be visible in the fossil record, especially if they're spacefaring. Like that would be pretty visible. Like we'd see, I don't know, you go on the moon and see like wreckage or something, unless the government's hiding it. So
Yeah, it's Smithsonian and the government, man.
But like like medieval or not medieval, maybe like I don't know, Stone Age level society probably could exist and then completely fade and there be no evidence of it afterwards.
Yeah, they could get a dino disease and just die.
Yeah, because and also
humans almost died.
Yeah,
our population levels had like really low spikes before. So
yeah, we almost got like to for some geneticists, it almost went down to like 70,000 people.
Yeah,
like worldwide, which is very low, and the fact that we bounced back from that is kind of amazing.
We're number one.
We're number one. We survived that event, and that's great. The genetic bottleneck that's still visible.
It's not great for the rest of the planet. But...
Yeah, no, it's not great for the rest of the planet. But yeah, like it's Stone Age technology. Because the thing is, with the fossil record, only 99.9% of stuff doesn't preserve. And so like only like it's like a fraction of percent of that stuff that actually lives preserved. So there's so many species we'll just never know about. So they could fall through the cracks. They could have been intelligent dinosaurs, because the Mesozoic lasted a long time too. Mesozoic,
a lot longer than our current epoch.
Yeah. So there's a lot of time for a lot of weird stuff to happen.
Like dinosaurs leaving the planet and going to a different quadrant and becoming Catholics.
Yeah, they're like, you're right that they're dinosaur space Catholics. You're right.
They are dinosaur space Catholics.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really good episode. I genuinely really enjoyed it. It makes me want to watch Star Trek again.
That it is a good episode to watch without much context because you
Yeah.
kind of get like, oh, high tech human society meets religious dinosaur society. You kind of don't need the rest of the context. That kind of it gets you there. You get what's happening, you know.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I liked the professor character. Like I liked him. He was very sympathetic.
Yeah,
Uh
and one thing I like about traditional Star Trek, characters actually talk to each other and are pretty reasonable, you know, and act pretty ethically.
yeah.
So, like some people have described Star Trek as kind of competency porn because it's nice to see people act competent and kind, you know. So,
Yeah.
yeah, well,
I
I'm
agree.
glad you
No, it
enjoyed it.
is it is like special because you're right that like people don't crazy overreact and stuff and yeah, because in another movie or something, like the people there'd be like there'd be like this big argument between him and
Yeah, people would scream and yell and lose it. That's what happens in New Trek, by the way,
yeah.
all the time. So,
So like it's funny knowing like this episode. So like in New Trek, so they don't know, but does anybody ever reference the dinosaurs ever again?
no, the
The Voth?
Voth are brought up one time in one of the video games, but they are never brought up again in another episode. You do
Oh,
have to
because
understand that Voyager is the future-most show in their
and
traditional Star Trek canon.
they're just
After
so far away.
yeah, Enterprise, which is the show that came out after Voyager, is a prequel to TOS, like the Kirk era. So,
Oh,
in their traditional Star Trek canon, not including the Alex Kurtzman New Trek stuff, there are no shows in the timeline after Voyager. So,
oh, because a part of me wants to see like the Voth in the future. Like I want to see the Voth, like maybe that guy's daughter, maybe the
you want to see
professor's
where the
daughter,
dinosaurs are?
does like land on Earth and go to a museum or something like that.
That
That'd be
would be
great.
rad. You could take them to meet like Piltdown Man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That'd be awesome. And like there's like this big emotional scene where they're like, we're back home. Because oh my gosh, spoilers for All Tomorrows is like a short story and it's been out for like 20 years or something. The CM Cosman thing, that's what happens at the end of the story is basically that because humans become the Voth basically, where they've just traveled to different
They've
parts of the
lost their home.
universe
Yeah,
and lost their home. And at the very end, like
that's
there's it,
Battlestar Galactica also.
it is. I know Battlestar Galactica. I
Yeah,
know some where they return to Earth. I saw that episode.
yeah.
It's at the end. There's like a scientist that is able to go through the records and find Earth, and Earth is abandoned. Like there's no intelligent life on Earth. There's just only I think plants and animals just wandering around, and it's just so much. Like I think it's like 100 million years later or something,
Man,
and
I
there's like
wish we
a
could just have simulations, Trey, so we could just be
yeah.
like, what would the Earth be like in 65 million years if we got rid of humans?
Oh
I
my
want to
god.
see it, you know? Like,
I want to see the future of like evolution. Like I would love to see stuff like that. And it's sad knowing that I never will. Like
because there's so
what
many
will come
creepy,
after us.
weird dudes running around now, you know? Just
Yeah.
imagine another 10 million years.
Oh yeah. No, I would love to see Earth like several million years in the future. And it's sad that I won't because it's like, oh, that would be
You,
so,
you won't
so
even
cool.
see it 100 years in the future.
Oh no.
That's just how it
Like
is. I'm sorry, man.
I wish I could just like because yeah, there's so many possibilities. You ever see Future is Wild? It's like
Yep.
squids
Yeah.
colonize the land. Like that could happen. Oh my god.
That's why I feel
Oh.
really bad for like geologists, you know? Because like they
Having to
they
pick
learn
up the
about the
pieces.
Earth on geological time,
Hmm.
you know, which is like so slow. And they have to
Yeah.
study these mountains and like the movement of mountains. We can't even perceive the things that they're studying. You know, we have to create a whole artifice of understanding just to think about what they're learning. And that's kind of weird. It kind of makes you feel really small to like study the movement of a mountain.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Oh, and that's
So
why that's like why like a lot of those early paleontologists like Darwin and stuff like they had like crises like to think about their own religion because it like I don't know it puts everything into a different perspective.
yeah, God becomes completely vaporized by the heat of the facts of the universe.
Like
Like
yeah,
he can't
oh,
exist. The idea of us being specially devised and placed in a special place and coming out of a perfect garden is just completely ununderstandable. You
hmm,
can't conceive it once you like learn the truth of evolution and geology and chemistry and space. Like those things just kill that idea. They just can't coexist.
hmm.
I know some people find a way with the separate magisterium argument, but I just don't understand how you can believe that when you see the vastness of nature and the cosmos itself.
Yeah.
Which some people find despair in, but I don't, because you have to just remember like how special it is that you get to be part of it at all.
Yeah, I agree.
So
It's beautiful.
yeah. Anyway, buddy.
Thank you for showing me Star Trek. I
I
want to watch more. I want to see,
yeah,
like, are there, like, if it's like these like short kind of stories like that are cool.
Start. I often describe Star Trek as science fiction morality plays.
Mm.
They're about 45-minute little plays, like they're normally parables, and like Star Trek, there are like things that happen in the storyline over time, but like 70-80% of the episodes are just kind of standalone stories. So
And I like that. Yeah. Oh, sweet. They're like
yeah,
sci-fi standalone stories.
yeah.
That's cool.
So
George R. R. Martin's older writing was like that, where a lot of it would just be like these self-contained sci-fi stories with just like these really cool ideas. And I love that kind of stuff.
and now he just sits around.
Now he doesn't write at all.
The Plastic Plesiosaur podcast is pleased to announce that we're being sponsored by Geeky Villain Graphics.
Your stop for stickers both geeky and villainous.
Their Etsy store is filled with a selection of pop culture and kitsch subjects from Star Wars and Marvel.
To gnomes riding a dinosaur and derpy-looking pugs.
Yeah, and these vinyl stickers are permanent, waterproof, laminated, and extra tough, and they're made in these here United States of America.
And for fans of the podcast, you can use code BIGFOOT to take 10% off your order and get a free Plastic Plesiosaur podcast decal added to your order.
You can put that decal on your laptop or your water bottle or on your camera traps that will no doubt this time finally get a photo of that cryptid you've been looking for.
Geeky Villain Graphics will also be updating their page with new designs featuring the monster from the Monster Quest episode.
Get this week's monster on a limited edition sticker. This week, of course, will be Nessie, and we're finally covering on the show, and you can get your Plastic Plesiosaur podcast decal added in. I have one, and there's a foil one and a normal one, and they're pretty cool. I'll have to send you one, Trey.
Oh, awesome. I would love it.
So thanks again to Geeky Villain Graphics, and check out their Etsy store. And be sure to use promo code BIGFOOT for 10% off your order.